Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. Today, our guest is Mike, also known as Lazarus Rising.
No.
Also known as Awesome Music Link.
Okay.
Did you know that that's...
Also known as Dad.
Yes, also
Yeah,
known
I wasn't
as
going to
Dad.
say his first name, but whatever.
Hey, I'm Derek and you're Mitch.
I'm
Can
not
he be
sure.
Mike?
I'm not sure about the Lazarus Rising thing. I love the logo. I hate that we spent so much time on it.
The Lazarus Rising Project.
But
Project Lazarus. Project
Project Lazarus Rising. Yeah, I just don't know if it's cool anymore. Like
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You mean the name itself?
Yeah, I don't know if it's lasted. Like it almost sounds too 70s-ish or something. Or
I don't know. I kind of like the idea of
I kind of like it, but most creators eventually ditch the names that they started with, the silly names, if you will.
yeah.
Like, like people still call Aaron Ego Raptor, and he's like,
Just call me
I was
Aaron.
like, I'm Aaron. And I used to be Girth and used to be Radium.
Well, I'm still
Yes.
Radium.
Are you still
You
Radium?
gave up on Girth, but I'm still
Are
Radium.
you still Radium?
Yeah,
Oh,
sometimes.
Well, you're still girth on chess.
that's
chess
true.
game.
I'm Girth with like it's the eye. You know
Yes.
the eye with the two dots above it?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like a dick.
I sent the game request to
Yes.
some guy named Girth GER
Oh, no.
TH 1200. Then I had to resend it when I saw it. I went back and saw yours was an I. So there's another Girth out there.
Of course, there's a little.
Oh yeah, I bet. I bet there's a lot of girths. Yeah, that's got to be
It's a
common.
huge name.
It was weird the way we came up with it in the first place. We were just screwing around, and Mitchell just really liked the name, and it
Yes.
kind of stuck from there.
Oh, that was League of Legends.
Yeah, it was League of Legends.
Yeah.
But even our channel started off as Balls Deep Gaming,
Oh, Jesus.
and then it became.
That was you.
I still like that.
That was you.
Well, it sounded like a great idea. We're gonna jump balls deep into whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's how we started everything.
Because you weren't even. No, we were both creating back then.
Yeah.
I made a Brink's
Body tips video.
Brink tips body types,
Yep.
which isn't even in stereo sound. It is a mono right ear video. The whole thing is in right ear mono, and I mean it's great. You can call it? It's funny that the first video on the channel is like a ridiculously long predecessor to Mitch Show. It's like an 8 years ahead of Mitch Show predecessor.
Sounds very unlikely for you to record something in one ear, though.
With no, I recorded in mono because I didn't have any other options.
Oh, I see.
I'm pretty sure the computer I was using at the time was in mono, so to me it was stereo. Because like when a mono, when
Well, it's like my phone is in black and white, so someone will send me a
Right.
photo and be like, "Look how cool this black and white photo is," and I'm thinking, looks like every other photo.
It's just a photo.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
So, have you thought of changing the name to something else? Like, have you had other ideas yet?
No, because it just seems silly to come up with a name before you're famous. You know, like
It is
should just if you want people to say to pay attention to you in a local town, they're gonna say, "Who the hell's Lazarus Rising? Like, what the hell?"
That's a good point. A small town.
Silly. Who does he
changes
think
things.
he is? You know,
But
some
at the
rock
same
star.
time,
He thinks he's a vampire rising from the dead.
most bands do have stupid names. Like they're usually like silly kind of names. Like the Rolling Stones is kind of it's a classic name. But it's still kind of silly.
Yeah, I
It's
spent a lot
tragically
of time
hip.
thinking about this in the last little while. Like there's stupid names that become okay, like the Beatles, over time. You don't even think about it. And then there's coolness, things that start off cool, like Led Zeppelin, Leonard Skinner, that sound good in the first place.
That's true.
And then it could require some explanation. And that could be cool, unless it's like, what the, or WTF, what is this was supposed to mean? Like our last band was called Disgruntled Youth, and I was like, what?
Like,
Yeah, what does that mean?
Betty White Tit Fuck?
Is that really a band?
That's a real band, yeah.
Betty White Tit Fuck.
But they're clearly not trying at all.
It makes you stop, and I like that.
when you think about
That's
the
what I like about a
image,
name.
that's a horrible image. She's 90 years old.
That's why.
Well, the
It
image gets worse every year. Yeah. I mean, there's also other really bad, like ICP stands for Insane Clown Posse, which
I think that sounds cool though, right? Insane.
It's a pretty
Clown
Posse.
Posse. Oh, I think
Yeah.
that sounds horrendous. Personally,
horrendous?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it just sounds like you were completely uninventive. You just took some words and threw them together. They don't sound like.
Well, that band kind of lives up to that name, though. That's not just a
Oh, they
crazy
totally
name.
do.
Yeah, they're really mangled.
raunchy.
They
I haven't
certainly
used the
are.
word raunchy in a long time.
But it's a good description.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So I don't know. I just think that the name, like my own name, I think I'm not. I don't. I think I should just go with my own name on my videos for
Not a bad
now.
name. Good name.
And I could always change it down the road. Well, not really. It's not a stage name. There's a lot of syllables, and people
could-
can never get it right. You
could
seen that
go
guy, Mike?
Well, so you always tell.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, you round it to F.
You could be M. Cheney.
M. Cheney.
M. Cheney.
That just doesn't sound. It sounds like I don't know. It
Cheney.
sounds like food.
You could be the Mike.
The Mike. Yeah.
The Mike.
Ooh, drop the mic. Mic drop. There it is.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. Mic drop the Cheney.
That's not terrible,
Why
but
do
for
you
someone
need
who
to
does
drop it? What-
guitar music, mic
Right.
drop wouldn't work.
Mic drop. Sounds like a comedy skit duo.
Yeah.
That sounds like one of those names you change. Everyone's like, "Oh, your real name's not Mic Drop." Like, those people who take on a celebrity name, and then everyone's like, "What do you mean your name's not Dice Clay?"
So I found out recently that actors, the reason why some of them have really weird names, like they'll just be like something junior, and it's like why is his name like that? You have to register your like as an actor, as a specific name, and if someone has that name, you can't have it as well.
What?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So like some people who like throw like their initial in the middle, it's because they just they couldn't get that full name.
Oh, so if it was like Jamie Foxx, and if there's another Jamie Foxx, he'd
Yeah.
have to be like Jamie L. Fox.
Right. Like I'm trying to think of an example.
That's not sustainable. Because after a while,
Well, no.
it's like you have to use your full middle name.
Well,
Just
what's funny about
Yeah.
that though is
Fit
that
in.
it's the predecessor to that username has been taken, but it's in real life. So imagine you had to be like Morgan Freeman 69 or something like that.
top billed cast. Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman 69, and Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey Fowler.
Right.
That's his real name.
Right.
Is it?
Well, and there's maybe there was a Kevin Fowler, and so he had to
Probably.
get around that.
Spacey's a weird middle name though.
That's actually his middle name?
Yeah.
That's a cool stage name, though.
It's funny how often actors have crazy
Spacey.
names. It's almost like their parents wanted them to join a ridiculous lifestyle.
Probably.
Names like what?
Leaf,
Talking about Leif
Leaf.
Erikson?
Joaquin.
Joaquin, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Um,
I've seen that a few times, though. I think that's a cultural name.
Joaquin?
Is it?
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
seen a few other names like that. The same name. Like it.
Yeah, I've seen Joaquin in a few people for sure. I've seen some very
But
unusual
you are
names.
pronouncing it wrong. You do realize that. Eh?
It's Jacqueline?
Yes, you know it's
Jacqueline.
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 Jacqueline Phoenix.
I think
I'm
you
pretty-
guys corrected me on that about
Phonics.
10 years
Yeah.
in. Jacqueline Phoenix.
Yeah,
It's a lot easier to say because I can
It
never
is.
remember. What is it?
Joaquin.
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 Well,
yeah.
he's also a really weird guy, so like, fuck it, maybe it
Yes.
is Jacqueline.
Yeah, I
Maybe
really
he's
liked
been
him.
letting people for years pronounce it wrong.
Maybe.
Because he's like all about the art, right? He's like,
I'm still Jacqueline.
Have
That'll be
you
his
s-
next movie.
have you seen
Yeah.
that documentary?
Oh,
No.
I lost respect for the guy after that.
It's actually really weird. I wasn't really sure by the end if he was trying to make it really fucking weird or if that's just who he is.
Well,
'Cause
if
like
he is trying, which is what I ended up believing, that whole thing was just a big hoax,
Yeah.
then that's where I lost respect. If
Right.
he was actually going through that, it would have been kind of cool, fascinating. But then in the end, if it was like, just kidding, just fooling around, then it's like, it's like when a really good story is just a dream at the end.
Oh yeah, that's a good
it's-
point. It's like a robbery.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they call that Deus Ex Machina, like the explanation that comes out of nowhere that like requires no understanding of the way the show went. But
It
What'd you
was
call
all
it? Day
aliens.
of what?
Deus Ex Machina.
Deus Ex Machina.
Deus Ex Machina. It's like
You had that somewhere
Latin.
stored in your
It's
vocabulary?
frequently said.
But yeah, what does that mean?
With it, I was told, I should probably look this up, but I was told that it's like the term for a story element that solves the story that had nothing to do with how the story was going. It was just like out of
Because I
nowhere.
could have had no other ideas, so
Yeah.
screw it.
Well, it's like the way that people think that Lost had no plan on how it ended. How it's just like, oh, it was this
Yeah.
thing. So that's what people call a Deus Ex Machina, as far as I know.
Interesting.
But then there's a
Deus Ex.
game called Deus Ex, and then there's a movie called Ex
Ex
Machina.
Machina, which is
Um,
fantastic, by the way. If you have not seen that.
Deus Ex X.
Deus Ex. Deus
Ex
Say it after him.
No, I was just testing it out. Maybe it's a good band name.
Well,
but
Day of Sex is the joke.
Day of Sex.
Day of
Day of
Sex.
Sex, yeah.
But I'm Still Here had a lot of like really. I liked it. I liked him. He definitely did some weird shit though, but he had a great point about. He said like as an actor, you're not so much an artist. You're told where to stand and what to do and how to say it and all that kind of stuff. I also partially disagree because really good actors bring something that a director never expected, right? Like
oh yeah, man.
Clerks 2, the like really wimpy character. Always forget his name. The one who Randall's always given shit to. Like his girlfriend has like pillow pants, you know?
Jeffrey or something.
With the long hair or something.
Yeah. That character was essentially just kind of supporting. He was supposed to just be there so that it wasn't just the same two characters that were in the first film. And the guy who played him had never played anyone on film before, and he went to Kevin Smith and had a bunch of ideas for how to develop that character, and he turned into a very memorable character.
Okay.
So like that to me is like when he says that an actor isn't really a true artist because they don't decide how things go. I think in that case when they do, that's a very different story.
Well, I have to say that, I mean, even though I lost respect for him, I think he's an amazing actor.
Oh, yeah.
What was that, Back to Paradise or no?
Yes,
Return to
Paradise.
Paradise.
That was
Yes.
excellent.
And Gladiator was great, too. Like,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. He's Julius Caesar in that. I was going to ask what else he's been in because
there's a few others I can't remember
he
right
was
now,
in
but-
We Own the Night with Mark Wahlberg. It's a crime drama type movie.
Oh, yeah.
And he was okay, but it wasn't anything special, not like those other two.
Yeah.
Yeah, Return to Paradise is one of the saddest movies ever. I just remember that scene where Vince Vaughn is at the window to
Yeah.
his cell, watching him being like walked out to the gallows. I don't know if I
Yeah.
can watch that one again. That one was rough.
That was good.
I didn't even recognize him at the start of the movie because he had that massive beard,
Yeah.
like a mane,
Yeah.
an actual mane of hair. So you're thinking like he reminded me of the guy from Saving Silverman, the skinny friend from Saving Silverman. I wouldn't even know what else he's in.
Oh, that was Jack Black.
No, the other guy. Like it's Jack Black, and then there was the other guy. The guy, man, I couldn't even give you an example of what he's in. He's nothing but comedies, and that's probably why I'm drawing a
Is it
blank
Edward
on it.
James Olmos?
I wouldn't even know him by name.
Or is Edward James Olmos the guy that they're saving him from? No, Silverman plays a different guy.
I don't think I've seen that movie. I keep hearing about it.
It's kind of dumb.
Oh, wait a minute. No, in Saving Silverman, that...
Yeah.
Oh, no, I saw that. That's...
Yeah, what's her name?
Well, her name is Sarah Silverman.
Yeah, Silverman, yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious because the main character's last name is Silverman, and he's dating the girl who's played by Sarah Silverman. I thought that was very appropriate how that all worked out. But whatever that dude's name is, he looks just like him with that beard, and then they shaved it off, and I was like, how the hell did he transform into Joaquin Phoenix? He was only in prison for like 2 years. It's like in that TV show, How I Met Your Mother. He's played by one character, but then he's voiced by what's that guy's name? Bob Saget.
Dave
What?
Saget?
No, Bob Saget.
Bob Saget.
Definitely Bob Saget.
Okay.
Think about Tourette's guy. That's how I always remember his name. Have you ever heard of Tourette's guy? He was an internet sensation in the early 2000s. It was just a dad who I guess had Tourette's, and his kids would just film all the crazy shit.
Kind of
that he
look
would
like
do.
Bubbles a bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
And one of the things he used to love to yell when things were going wrong is, "Oh, Bob Saget!" It's like that's always how I remember his name. I shouted in my head.
We never that was a great example where like nobody ever wanted to look into whether that was real. Some people were like, Tourette's guy wasn't real, it was fake, and other people were like, no, it really was, and then he died, and then no one ever looked into what happened to him.
Yeah.
And I have no idea whether that was the truth or not.
No one wanted to shatter the illusion. Everyone was like, "It's funny."
Yeah,
just
who cares?
leave it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
who
who cares? Yeah, I mean, there was one scene where he pushes his son down the stairs.
Really?
And when you watch the video, it looks disturbingly real because the son is holding the camera as he falls down the stairs, and then the dad comes to the top of the stairs and like yells at him more after he pushed him down the stairs. So it does make you wonder, you know.
The first time we ever found out about him was the cat thing. When it was just, he was holding the camera. And he was like, "Jump, you bitch!"
Oh yeah, I remember that. He's trying to convince a cat to jump from like a fence to something else.
He's like, "I'll eat you! I will end you!"
that doesn't sound like Tourette's.
That makes me think it's probably fake if he was behind the camera that time. But just some of the ways that he would say things was so unlike anything anyone else was doing. Like he walks inside from cutting the grass and he's got sweat all over his shirt. And then someone's like, why do you got Mickey Mouse on your shirt? Because he's got like a big sweat stain on his stomach and 2 smaller ones on his nipples. And he goes, that's not Mickey Mouse, that's just tit dirt. All the things he said were just, they were very Family Guy-esque, very South Park-like, where they just sort of shattered what you were expecting. I think we needed that in the early 2000s. I think now we need less of that. Now that the internet has sort of...
Well, no, the internet is way worse now. It's also better. It's got much better content, high quality content. But it's also got ridiculously low quality content. Have you guys heard of, what is it called, Johnny Papa or something like that? So you guys
we're just gonna say no right now.
Like you guys are aware of the kids channels on YouTube?
No.
So the way that they operate, they're not really making quality content. They're just making like really great stuff to throw on for background noise for your kid, or something that has like just visuals that your kid's gonna pay attention to. We're talking like really, really low. We're talking kids at like 2, and these videos get billions of views because children watch them on loop. They just never stop, right? You know how kids love to watch the same.
Wow, what kind of content?
Right? It's like nursery rhymes with like Unity asset visuals of like a kid dancing back and forth. And they
what?
just
Unity asset? What's that?
Yeah, so Unity is a company website that makes 3-dimensional models for video games and videos and stuff like that, and then you just buy it. It's like stock photography, but for 3-dimensional assets essentially. So
okay.
You're supposed to use them as a stand-in. It's supposed to just help you develop your game. You're not supposed to use it for your game.
Oh.
And you can also use it in videos. So people just buy Unity assets, throw them in there with a basic animation, moving back and forth, spend 5 minutes singing a nursery rhyme song, and there's like no joke, like some of them have 1 billion fucking views. It's nuts. Because like
this is because like the parents are too like they want to be able to do some video games without
the parents aren't
kids
paying
disturbing
attention.
them.
Yeah,
parents aren't paying attention at all.
It's just something for the kids to.
This is like
2-year-old though. I mean,
yeah. Oh, really young kids are using YouTube now, and they have iPads, and they
like
they
3 and 4 year
phones.
olds with iPads.
Yeah,
it's a thing. But there's some videos that are actually just someone will go out and buy like $100 worth of Kinder Surprise and just open them one at a time. Just open a Kinder Surprise, assemble it, put it aside, open a new one.
On the video?
Yeah, it's a 10-minute long video of them opening and making the Kinder Surprise and then moving on to the next one. But because for kids, it's that excitement of what's going to come next, that they literally get tens of millions to hundreds of millions of views.
And the way that the promotion works is that YouTube wants minutes watched, but they also want consecutive minutes watched. So if you watch 10 minutes 3 times in a row, that's 30 consecutive minutes, and that promotes you way better than a single 10-minute view. So they get put into promotion so quickly, and then other kids see them, and it just keeps going, that these videos are like unbelievably popular. They're like up there with like music videos.
What kind of mush is this gonna raise in our society?
That's the problem.
Well, I think that kind of mush was already there.
Not like that.
No, kids were touching things. They were working with blocks.
That's true.
Yeah,
I guess
not like that.
That's true. No, kids television does aim to teach them something, even if it is like kind of dumbed down. But
kids television, or you mean these YouTube things?
No, I mean
Barney and
like old days,
the Doodle Bops, and
I think Barney was creating some mush too.
Barney was pretty nonsense.
It was it was stimulating. See, like stimulating a child isn't that hard, but that's not really productive. That's not educational. It's just making the kids out of your hair so you can get the dishes done or something.
Yeah, it's essentially what it is.
Doodle Bops was like the 4 dudes, right?
Yeah.
Doodle Bop.
I don't know if they ever sung like that. But... yeah, well, there's a whole bunch of these groups that spawned where it was 4 or 5 people, and they were all musically based, and then it would be a kids show where like some of them would be in each scene at a time, and like it's a regular kids show, but there's just 4 or 5 guys, and they're like the band, the Doodle Bops, the Wiggles. Like they've done this many times.
The Wiggles.
It's all the same show. They're just remaking it.
Is that taken? That could be our new name.
The Wiggles. But you're right. There's a lot of people who aim things at children, not at parents to buy for their children. And quite honestly, those people, for the most part, are not good people.
It's trash.
Right? Because you're you're marketing at a group of people that can't protect themselves.
Yes.
That's what you're doing. You're choosing
And that right there. Sorry, were you done?
Oh, more or less.
Okay. That is why it's important to talk about gaming controversies, because it's not the adults that are getting swindled by bullshit. It's children. It's, like 14-year-old kids who have like 5 hours a week at their job, and it takes them 2 or 3 weeks to save up for one game, and they get swindled by some businessman asshole. That's why to me it's a big deal, because it's money. It's children's money that is being taken through a system of things that we are very used to. All of us like want to throw up at some of the stuff that we see in advertising, but to a kid, it's just like, oh my god, that's so exciting.
Oh yeah.
Yesterday, I
gotta have that.
haven't seen a toy commercial in years, and for some reason, I saw a toy commercial on YouTube, which is really fucking weird. And it wasn't even related. Like, I have no idea why it was even there. I wasn't even watching like a kids related video, but for some reason that was there, and it like reminded me of how garbage they are. They're like blasting you with information in those toy commercials, especially when it's boy toys, fucking like action figures and guns and shit for kids. It's like bum, 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 oh my god, and these kids are screaming and shit. It's like, this is so dumb. None of this is gonna be that fun.
That's a really good point, that everything is exaggerated significantly. I've been starting to have serious issues with OLG lottery commercials for a while now.
Gambling in general for me.
Gambling in general, I'm not a huge fan of, but these commercials are particularly bad because they keep saying the same thing. They keep saying there's a lottery winner just like this person around every corner.
Yeah.
And then I saw a commercial today where there was it's for OLG, and there's a whole school of fish swimming in a fucking cyclone for some reason. I don't know, some fish do that. And then one of the fish like breaks off from the cycle and swims down through the cyclone and like escapes out the bottom. And I remember thinking, I only see one fish down there. Where are all the other fish?
Yeah.
Where are all the other lottery winners? They should be around every corner. Why aren't they behind all these rocks?
It really bugs me when you're
That's
trying to
sad.
sell something beyond the actual product you're selling. Like when you're trying to say that
Sell a lifestyle?
that beer is like a thing that makes life happy, when it's actually like very much linked to unhappiness and substance abuse and all that kind of stuff. People who are drinking beer and having fun are already people who are finding fun without beer.
Elsewhere.
But they're selling it as though the beer itself is what brings you happiness, which is not the truth.
The advertisers are paid to come up with something that's going to make their employer, their customer, money.
Yeah.
It's not about they got to stand out. They got to be super stimulating, especially in this world. Now everything is so distracting that you have to be super loud, super I don't know, cheesy, super tacky, anything just to get somebody's attention for those 3 seconds that they're going to pay it.
Well, we had that. We did advertising recently, and we found that we had a huge interaction rate with no pursuit.
No conversion.
People were watching all of the advertisement, but not following us. Not going. They're like, "This is really interesting," but then not actually checking us out. So
Have you thought about free prizes, perhaps, if you come to our video?
Yeah. Oh. I've thought about that a couple times. Like, but I always wanted to do.
Maybe a pebble from Northern Ontario.
A true.
We have lots of those.
I wanted to do a true fan appreciation thing. Like I like if we had an extra copy of Jack 2, I would want to, in like episode 14, in the middle of it, just be like, oh, and then if you say this thing, then and we like your response, then we'll send you this free copy of Jack 2. Because I want it to be for that kid who can't afford something, who like gets something really cool from the people that he watches, right? But there's just so many. I just don't want to deal with like having to talk to somebody and then get their information and then mail something to them and all that stuff and
Logistics.
Yeah,
A lot of it's logistics.
Not really something I'd like to do until it becomes like a legit business.
I think that makes
where
sense.
we're like actually mailing something from like an office. Like right now, I realized that last night. This room right here, which I initially called the multimedia room, but it needs a new name. It's the sesh room, the bro sesh room. It's sort of become like a community room with you guys as well, because it's like the room that that we hang out in. It's the room where the show is done. Decisions about things are done based on like more than one person, even though it's like in my space. It's kind of strange it's kind of surreal when I was thinking about it today, about how it's like like a shared room in my place.
Yeah, within your home, there's this room that's not exactly yours.
Yeah,
that is kind of. I do think about that sometimes. That our studio is your place. Someday, that's not going to be practical, and also. It's easy to have our dad on as a guest, but it's not so easy to invite somebody and say, hey, do you want to come and be on our podcast in my brother's apartment, sitting on these 7-foot tall chairs?
I imagine a lot of people started that way. Though.
Like, oh, yeah, hugely. Yeah.
They definitely do. It's just harder to invite someone into your home directly than it is,
Because they might not leave. Like, why would it be hard to...
Well, it's just weirder for them because they're coming into your actual living space.
Yeah.
And also weirder for you because you're inviting someone into your living space. Like if you said, hey, meet us at the studio. And
okay.
That's what we're saying. That for now, this is definitely...
That's what we call third album ideas.
Yeah. No, it's definitely down the line.
There was, Rob Schneider was on the guest show for Game Grumps. And he was like, what inspired you to want to like build this whole warehouse and have all these people in this place? And Aaron's like, well, it just got to a point where there was somebody I didn't know in my house every single day.
Oh,
it was just like one of those things where it was like, people that are working for you, you don't necessarily know that well, and they're just in your place all the time, and you just start to not feel like it's yours anymore. That was really where it started.
I just had an epiphany. What do you think you guys could actually have an interview with other lesser known podcasts or YouTubers?
Yeah.
And then but virtually, they have their mic, you have yours, and then you tie it, you have a whatever. I don't know how you connect, but if you did that, then you'd be using a little bit of their popularity, the small guys, and then just keep building up. So you get these big ass.
It's interesting.
Things that
I'm really not a fan.
Suck the life out of their. Like a black hole,
take their viewers.
Yeah. Well, share them.
I'm over here.
I'm really not a fan of virtual communication for a show. Like Derek and I did.
I know that
the first couple of months at least, maybe it was even a year of Bros Play over Skype, and that was brutal. Like timing on jokes just can't happen when there's that delay, because there's a delay to him and then the delay back to me. But when you put both microphones, like we had Derek was recording and mine separately, and then he would send me his, and we would synchronize them together, so the viewer feels like we're in the room,
that was crazy,
even when we're not. But there's still that weird delay. So like, you're hearing Derek on his timing, but then I'm not hearing him on his timing. So it's just like, why is Mitch taking so long to respond?
Right.
Why is Derek not laughing when he should? That was just the awkward part about it.
There's no other way to get around that right now?
Unless you have, I forget what it's called. It's like a wired connection you can get that is like spot on, that like some like high-end radio stations will use.
Oh, okay.
I forget who it was. There was a guy on Joe's podcast talking about this guy that couldn't be in the office, and so he had this like crazy high-speed wiring system that went all the way from his house to the office, and he was like coming through it like instantly with no feedback.
I do remember hearing about that. Yeah, he had to have that installed so that he could do that communication. So I think that's the biggest problem, is just that when you do communicate with someone like that, you don't really get a true sense of what they're like, and there's a lot of things that are missed, like visual cues. Like when someone leans forward, you can tell they're going to talk. The way that you guys make eye contact, it really helps with the conversation. You can
feel, like Derek and I could feel when the other guy's about to speak, when you inhale and stuff like that.
That kind of stuff. Yeah.
That was just a little epiphany. I just thought maybe you could steal somebody else's
collaborating has been it's been something I've wanted to do since the beginning. I just don't really have the time or the passion to do it. I can see it being something like way in the future. The problem is, like, I think collaborating when you're not in the same space is not a good idea. So we would almost guarantee to have to go to California to collaborate, because almost every YouTuber's there.
Really?
Yeah.
That might be a good place for a billboard then.
California?
Yep.
Well, that is the nature of the business these days, is that we can grow on our own naturally. We can grow through the YouTube algorithm. We can grow through advertising. But if someone with, let's say, 70 or 80,000 subscribers were to send out our channel and say, hey, these guys are cool, check them out, that would give us such a boost that we literally couldn't even pay for, unless we obviously paid them to do that call out.
That sounds good. Maybe you could pay for it.
But that's something we won't do, just because that's not who we are.
But you know what's interesting about that?
I think you guys need to relax a little bit on the integrity.
But what did we start? What did we start this entire thing talking about? How little integrity is left in advertising, in content.
I know. Get in with the crowd. Then you can change the world later once you have all the money.
But that's the thing. People make those compromises, and by the time they get to the top, they realize that those compromises are permanent.
I could show you some stuff on YouTube that would make you want us to be
even more intense about it.
No. Some of there's this weird thing. Other visual media forms are sometimes get shut down. So like Vine was really popular for like 3 or 4 years, and then it was purchased by Twitter and destroyed. Well, I mean, it was the Vine site still exists, but you can't create anymore. So all of the people making money off of Vine suddenly needed to find something new, and so they came to YouTube, and it was known as the Viner invasion, where they brought their 6-second style of creating videos to YouTube and suddenly had to make 10-minute long videos, and it was just crazy trash. Recently,
I can't even imagine what that looks like.
It's awful.
I mean,
it's really awful.
It's just like a whole bunch of.
Well, imagine taking an image that's 150 pixels by 150 and blowing it up. One that's 10,000 by 10,000.
You know, I get the analogy, but I mean, what do they literally look like?
Oh, it's like it's the 24-hour challenge. You know, have you ever heard of those?
No.
It's like sleeping in a Walmart overnight, 24-hour challenge. It's like there's no content there.
Oh.
It's you bringing a camera into a confined space and then going, ha ha ha, we're here now. There's nothing. You can't make a good 10-minute video about that because you're not doing anything.
Or you can make a 2-minute video.
Or like they're hiding. Sorry, just hiding in a Walmart.
Yeah, literally hiding to try to stay
until
there
the lights are turned out.
Or like we stayed in a Leon's overnight, or like we snuck into this place overnight. And then recently there was another one that got shut down.
Publishing evidence of their crime.
Yeah, but that's how we know it's not a real fucking crime. Like they're communicating with people who own the place to pretend that they're sneaking in. And then recently there's another app. It's called Musical.ly, which is where you like. I don't even know exactly what it is. It's like kind of like Vine, but it's for singing songs. I don't know exactly how it works, but that got shut down, and the Musical.ly invasion is probably worse than the Viner invasion because they had even less like creativity than Viners. At least Viners came up with something that they could do in 6 seconds. Musical.ly, people just sing someone else's song for a certain amount of time. So now when they're actually tasked to do something, it'll be like eating 100 Happy Meals challenge. Where they don't actually eat 100 Happy Meals challenge. They just eat a bunch of them and then go, all right, thanks for subscribe now. It's crazy. It's funny though that I mean, people do what they're promoted to do. So if you tell someone they're allowed to do that, and they just do it. That's just how it goes.
Well, and whatever they get paid the most to do as well.
And if you want to make a giant surprise egg and tell your child to bust it open, even though they don't get any of the toys or the money, and you can get a whole bunch of fucking money from it, then just that's what they'll do.
It reminds me of my salesman boss when I was in sales, and he said that if you throw enough shit around, some of it's going to stick.
Yep.
And that's kind of, I think, why there's so much crap out there.
It's a scattergun effect.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
you shoot enough
it's working
areas.
for somebody. They don't care if it's quality or something to be proud of. They just want to try to get some revenue.
And that's the key. I couldn't live my life knowing that we created bullshit.
Right.
I would feel bad every time I put something out, knowing that I'm willfully doing this to people. It's not like I'm just putting it out into the ether. I'm intending people to watch my garbage. I just feel like I would feel bad the same way. I can make a lot of money in sales, but I don't like selling people things they don't need. Right? And that's the problem. It's the same thing here. We don't want to sell people on Bros Play who aren't interested, because what the fuck is the point of that? Bringing someone in, getting them to subscribe, realizing they hate us, and then unsubscribing is a process we don't really need or want. We only want the people that are actually interested in the content. We don't want to make brain goo.
We even felt like it was a little much to be putting that moment in the advertisement from Dark Souls, where we were saying like the souls of the Deacon of the Deep. We even felt like that was a little too much, because that kind of makes it seem like we're like improv artists, that like we're always coming up with bits, which isn't the truth. But we chose to do that one because it was it's really hard to represent a Let's Play in that format. But what we could do is just throw together like the best moments of us and pretend that that's what Bros Play is, but it's not the truth.
You can tell we're champions of the truth.
I'm always pushing for a little bit of just to relax just a bit, because I think that little Deacon thing, maybe you should do that some more while you're
best ofs. I was thinking about doing best ofs because I like that.
No, I don't mean
you're
best
presenting
ofs.
it.
I mean, like, do more of that Deacon of the.
Oh, I've been talking about doing improv for a while, but
a lot of it's our energy levels, honestly. When we go to record, because we've both just worked a full day, and then we eat, and then we start recording. It's actually the stupidest thing when you think about all the physiological processes going on. Like, our bodies are trying to repair ourselves, and yet we're there talking at full volume and like using full engagement.
I think that actually makes it good. I think like disconnecting yourself a little bit from reality actually makes really good stream of consciousness content.
That is a good point, that we don't think about what we're saying as much because we don't even have the faculties to do it.
The Rogue Trooper session we just did, the one before that, I was very self-conscious about like what I was saying and stuff like that, and I felt like I was like filling air like unnecessarily. And then the next one, I was like ridiculously exhausted, and it took the edge completely off. I didn't care about anything that I said, and it was like one of like my favorite sessions ever, because I just didn't care. And like once, like when you,
that's why people drink alcohol.
It's like it's like when people say that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. It's like the only thing you have to be nervous about is being nervous, because that once people feel that nervousness, it becomes really awkward.
Well, somebody pointed out, what's the difference between nervousness and excitedness? Basically the same feeling. It's just a matter of how you, in particular, perceive it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chris D'Elia was talking about how that he bombs all the time, but he doesn't let it. He doesn't make it feel like he doesn't acknowledge it as bombing when he's up there. So people kind of just forget about it. But whereas if he kind of like pulled back and got really nervous and wasn't sure about his next joke because of that, people would feel that. But as long as you go up there and say, fuck you, I think this is funny, people will just follow you for that. It's like the amount of popular people out there who have just convinced people to follow them by just pretending they deserve their respect is amazing. And that's sort of a theory of mine with Mitch show. That voice that I put on is supposed to be like a sort of confident, you should listen to me, but and with no explanation as to why.
It totally works.
Because this regular voice that I do here,
you don't even need good material.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Which is why it's good that I have good material.
Yeah. I didn't say yes. I meant in general. Yes, it is.
Well, and also I kind of take that attitude as well, like the fuck you, I think this is funny sort of attitude. There's things that I leave in that are definitely unpolished.
Yes.
But I just go, no, I like that. I like that I came up with that, even though it's not necessarily something I would have written, and just leave it at that.
Yes.
So would you say that right now we're in, when would you say that the significant advance of the internet sort of became the most apparent to you? To me, it's been in the last couple of years, maybe since 2016. I've really started to notice.
I would say more like 2013.
What's the definition?
See, I'm still getting to this. So since 2016, it feels like we've gone from regular hysteria, the hysteria that we used to have when we had just news, to this new elevated level of hysteria where it's almost like every single day there's something to be hysterical about, and it feels like everything that happens is way blown out of proportion compared to what it should be.
I think that's kind of in line with what Dad was saying earlier about like so many people are so loud that you have to be louder.
Mm-hmm.
I think news stations have an issue with that.
But I guess that's what I'm asking. When did this start?
Oh,
when do you feel like it really became apparent to you?
I'm trying to define what exactly you mean by the hysteria.
I think that's always been around.
Or I forget how you put it the first time. You mean when did the internet go loopy compared to when it was kind of cool?
Yeah, exactly. When did we really go loopy? Because we're there now. We know for a fact we're in the loopy era now. It could get worse. I would
say
but
it would have had to have been after.
It's so gradual. It's hard to put a...
it's like rising tides. You don't even notice them until all of a sudden they're at your front doorstep.
Well, last year was like the boom of fake news, right? 2017 or was it 2016?
I don't know. It was the awareness maybe, but
I
don't know.
Yeah, the word fake news started to boom. I don't know about fake news itself. I feel like fake news itself has been around since the internet started.
Even before that.
True. It was just, I feel like it was less.
It's just not it wasn't as exposed before.
Yeah. Oh, you mean it wasn't like people weren't calling it out? Like
Well,
it was
there was all
there
kinds of hoaxes and stories, even Loch Ness Monster and all that kind of thing. Like, there's always been fake news, but
back before the internet,
UFOs
how could you know anything if you didn't own a encyclopedia set? You know.
Bat Boy.
Yeah, that's why like everybody. It was better back then because then everybody could believe in one particular myth and it was real. No Google to counteract it. So, yep, they say you should do this, and everybody, yep, I heard that. I'll tell them. That's how the information got around. So as long as everybody believed it, it was true.
Cigarettes used to be good for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but sugar was also good for you during the era of the internet.
Right.
It took us a while to figure that one out. There's always getting misinformation.
Sugar's not even that bad for you.
Sugar's terrible.
The chemical's bad for you. The supplements like
the high glucose
sweeteners
syrup is terrible for you. Like
real sugar. I mean,
low amounts
like
of natural
sugar. Sugar is like if you brush your teeth. As far as I understand, a little sugar's okay. It's just the excess of anything, right, is bad. So
yeah.
But if you're taking, what is it? I don't know, all these sugars, the sweeteners now that are made out of chemicals and stuff, that stuff.
Well, those ones are the ones that give you fucking cancer.
Yeah.
But the sugar itself will kill you in all the other ways. Like it's not saturated fat that's clogging people's arteries. It's the sugar. Because when you have really high sugar volumes in you guys know what happens when you heat up sugar and let it cool down, right?
Nope.
It hardens. That's how we make candy.
Okay.
And so when you have really, really high blood sugar contents, that can like glom onto the side of your arteries and harden there. Because that's what it does. Sugar is glue. Literally is glue in a way.
So no amount is good or needed? Like, how salt is good, but not too much?
Well, you definitely need some carbohydrate because the main neurotransmitter in your brain is built with glucose, which is like comes from carbohydrates. So you do need some
sugar.
But the reality is you never need added sugar, period.
Because it's always out there.
Yeah, well, because...
In fruits and stuff, like natural sugars?
Generally, they say the only the sugar you should be getting is that comes in the whole food. If the sugar comes in the whole food, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's when the sugar is either added or extracted from the whole food. Like they say if you squeeze an orange and then drink that juice, your body will have a significant reaction to the sugar, but if you ate the whole orange, you'd probably be all right. Because there's all the fiber in there, keeping your body from absorbing that sugar too fast.
Interesting.
So really, it's sugar in general.
It's like if you dumped like a shot of whiskey into a glass of water versus taking the shot of whiskey.
Essentially, yeah.
Because you'd be consuming it completely differently, and your timing would be different too.
Yeah, it slows it down. Yeah.
See how much we know now because of the internet.
There are great things that came out of it. Like there are fantastic aspects to the internet.
It was so much simpler back in the 50s and 60s. Sugar's good. Cigarettes are okay. Your doctor has one.
Lead is
no
totally
seatbelts
fine.
are needed. It was safer back then.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, everyone, people talk about how, we grew up and we were fine. And for the most part, that is true.
That's not.
Well, no, because at the same time that was going on, kids were getting killed in cars bouncing around because they had no seatbelts, and there were children getting molested behind closed doors where people, had smiles and
when you look at the rates of obesity and diabetes.
Yeah.
There was that was interesting that you brought that up because there was a short story we read in high school where a kid gets stolen by like a 75-year-old man, and the mom ends up finding him and just kind of takes the kid away and just goes like, all right, thanks or whatever, and just kind of leaves it, because at the time the idea that a man would be doing anything wrong was just not there. It just wasn't an accepted concept. So to her it was just like that was kind of weird. Really? Whereas now you would know instantly what was happening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but also now if your child is lost and they go to someone for help and then you find them with that person, you'd probably accuse that person of stealing your child. It's so the opposite direction now, right?
Oh, yeah.
You always assume the worst these days. There's even people who have been, they've almost had their children taken away for allowing them to walk somewhere on their own when they're like 7 or 8. Because parents consider that to be like negligence because you're not protecting your child.
Again.
That is hysteria. It truly is. And that's why I know you can't pin it down because it is a gradual transition. But I do feel like it's almost, actually, you know what? It's almost like, those, like a winch where every time you pull the winch further in, it clicks. Click, 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 click. That's how a winch works. That's what every year feels like to me since the internet. It feels like it's getting more and more and more crazy, click by click by click.
We can't go back.
Oh, there's no, and you can't go back because that's how the system
no
works.
release.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I could have put another analogy. It's like 1 or 2 crickets is a quite pleasant sound. You can tolerate it. 2, I mean, then you add a few more and it starts to get a little noisy. Then it's like, holy cow, this is loud, until the point where it merges into just
one noise,
static.
One noise.
And for my experience right now, the world is full of static.
Bathed in it.
Which is why I like the bush so much, because there's nothing there.
Oh, I felt the same way. We went to our uncle's 2 weekends ago, and they live in like a really, like, it's cottage country. And then we went out into the bush and all these places, and then we came back, and I live in a parking lot, basically. And I felt like I was being shoved back into like a can.
Crammed into a little cube.
Yeah.
And like now that I've adjusted back to it, I'm like, no, I do like this. I don't, like, I wouldn't want to be in like a forest area on a regular basis. Like, especially at night, I find like the forest is quite a daunting thing. Especially if I lived on my own. It would be a completely different experience if I lived with a family or something. But I do like where I am now. It was very interesting, like feeling very free. And then the comparison made me feel very shackled.
This is convenience. The city is convenience, but it's not natural.
Oh no, it's
and
very
anything
natural.
that's not natural.
Very natural.
I have to question.
Last night, Dad and I were looking out the window there, and we were when I made the realization that I live in a parking lot. Like, there's a parking lot in every direction, all the way around. There's nothing. There's no place on this building that is connected to not parking.
You live in the middle of a parking lot.
And you said something like it's very well manicured or something like that, or well groomed. And like in that moment, I was imagining what the forest used to look like where we were sitting, and then I did like an imagination thing where it all faded away and all that's left is these perfectly straight trees that are left behind and like grass that never existed.
Yeah, that's what's unusual. When you see grass in the city, that grass wasn't original. That was sod.
Is the thing
I guarantee you that was sod, right?
Grass is
where?
In the city. Like when you see little strips of grass, between like one sidewalk and another. Guarantee you when they did the construction, that was all churned up, sent off to another site, then they put down the soil and they put the sod back on it. Yeah.
You know what's interesting about grass is that it's like really new relative to the Earth's history. It's like 1 million years old or something like that. Like, it did not exist when the dinosaurs did. Not at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So all those grassy shots in Jurassic Park? Bullshit.
But also, What? That doesn't make any sense. Jurassic Park is set modernly. There would still be grass on that island.
But they were supposed to be replicating the environment of the non-feathered animals.
It's horrible,
but
they want to see dinosaurs walking on concrete sidewalks and grass and our normal natural. They just have to have that contrast.
Well, there's also a theory that they never actually isolated dino DNA. That what they instead did was they took modern examples and tried to reverse engineer dinosaurs. That's why they brought those characters out. I don't even remember the names of the actors other than Jeff Goldblum. What's the other guy's name? The main character? You wouldn't.
That's Dr. Grant.
Oh, I meant his actor name. But Jeff Goldblum and the other two people.
Chris somebody or Mick. You mean the main character, like the
Mick?
No. His last name is not Mick. It's something that
not Mick.
Mr. Not Mick. It's like Ian something.
Okay.
And I always want to put Mick in front of his name because it sounds better.
So regardless, he brings those 3 there to see if he can fool them. Because if he's able to trick them into thinking these are actual dinosaurs, then he'll be able to trick the general public. So that's the theory.
In the first movie?
In the first movie.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that a theory?
Yeah.
Oh, this is just a theory.
But somebody pointed out that DNA has a half-life, and if DNA was contained in amber and then had to wait from dinosaur era until now, the DNA would already be completely destroyed by degradation, just simply because it would wear away over time.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's actually how it works. Because DNA only lasts for so long. So that was their theory, is that these are actually just designed. Well, because then
wait a minute, this is the guy who came up with this story in his head. Why did they have to have a theory? Like, how could it?
What do you mean?
Like, there's having a theory. Like, this is an
a
alternate
common
reality.
Thing now. Yeah, this is a common thing where people make a theory about a movie that already exists, that connects things that weren't connected in the original movie.
But it's not a conspiracy theory. It's just a convenient theory they can attach to somebody's story. That,
yeah, exactly.
Well,
they're not saying the author definitely specifically meant this.
Oh my god!
But when
so many things to think about in the world.
It's true, but if we're talking about whether the movie makes sense, this is irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
Because this puts it in a modern scope. And then when you go back and watch Jurassic World, they actually do make designer dinosaurs by taking genomes and editing them to make the traits they want. So there's no reason to assume that in the first movie they didn't already have that technology.
Wait a minute now. To reverse engineer a dinosaur from nothing, or like to create...
From modern creatures.
From modern creatures?
Mm-hmm. So, you take a bird and you mix it with a lizard.
Can you imagine how many different variations they'd have to do to modify a lizard into a dinosaur? Like that's... It'd take 100,000 years, wouldn't it? Like,
well, I guess it's the same with any movie, right? I mean, you do have to suspend your disbelief on those particular.
No, but you're trying to come up with theories on how it could be, reality.
Well, what
if you're gonna go
in Jurassic World, though, they took. Actually, I guess no. In Jurassic World, they said that they took the actual dino DNA and then edited it. So, I guess that is a little different because in Jurassic World they put like a pufferfish or something with a raptor.
Just imagine if you could take all this mind power that people are wasting on these kind of theories and put it into something productive.
That is productive though. If you're making a living,
it's a movie. You're supposed to go and relax, have fun, suspend your disbelief for a little while, eat some popcorn, and go home.
But I would be less interested to go back and watch Jurassic Park before I knew this theory.
Yeah.
Now when I watch this theory, I'm looking at it and I'm going, oh shit, I totally see how that could work. Like this scene makes more sense when I think about it through the lens of this theory. Otherwise, it's just a fucking movie about dinosaurs. It's clearly not that accurate. Well, it's the only thing it is to me.
They also we know a lot more, or we've theorized a lot more about most dinosaurs had a lot more feathers than we thought. We assumed that they were just bald.
Yeah, but that wouldn't look good. Wouldn't look good in the
actually,
movie.
Real raptors are way smaller, and they're birds. But to me, they're actually more scary because they have intentionally intimidating feathers on them.
The birds have an image to overcome to be as ferocious as they really were.
Well,
they seem a little bit dumb and kind of.
There were versions of pterodactyls that were 6 stories high. They could swallow up a person without even noticing it. And they chose to put the tiny ones in the movie. It would be way better if you've seen those, right? Where the head
6 stories.
The head is as big as the rest of its body.
Yeah.
It's a monstrous flying machine.
Totally, yes.
I watched a video yesterday on plesiosaurs, which are those ones that kind of look like Loch Ness, where they have the long.
Oh, that's my favorite dinosaur of all time.
And then their cousins are the pliosaurs. It's the same thing, but they just have the short mouth like a crocodile instead.
Yeah.
And it showed how big they're actually supposed to be, and a guy next to one, that scared the shit out of me because even his body from head to toe was not as long as its front of jaw to back of jaw. So it wouldn't, you could be swallowed whole, guaranteed.
It's a true sea monster.
Yeah. And they could get up to 50 feet long.
And it would eat one of those megalodons, which are pretty scary, right? But
holy crap.
It was big enough to eat one of those.
Oh, plesiosaur is like the crocodile with the fins.
With the fins, yeah. Fin croc. That's what
It's like Loch Ness is always portrayed, I thought. Not so much the crocodile nose, but
that's the thing. Loch Ness is a similar version, but it's just the one with the longer neck.
Yeah,
they're like
and
the
it's
same
more of a stubby
family.
nose, it looks stubbier than a
on the
crocodile.
head. Yeah. And it looks almost like what are those long neck dinosaurs called? The brontosaurs. It looks like it has a brontosaur head.
Pretty sure that's the one they got wrong. Because there was that one they had the head on wrong. Yeah, you guys hear about that one?
No.
And they had to rename it.
Oh yeah, I did.
Because it was like a brontosaurus style thing, but there was the wrong head up there, and it was because of one of the vertebrate matched where it was supposed to go, and then the next one had to fit a different skull. And it was one tiny little mistake that made sense at the time, I guess. But
I watched a video. This I guess trend has been emerging. I saw a video that it just said Jurassic Park, and then you see these little tiny brontosaurs running across this log, But then after you realize they're not brontosaurs at all, they're raccoons, but they're just playing them in reverse because they've got the tail. Their tail goes up like this, and then their whole body is low, so they look like a little brontosaurus when they're moving that way. And so they're showing them going in reverse across this log.
I did see that.
It's just kind of cool how your brain can trick yourself so easily. All you need is the idea of something, the outlines of something, and you can fill in all the rest.
You know that opening scene to Jurassic Park 2 when that girl gets, like the whole family gets like eaten by those little guys?
The teeny tiny ones.
Yeah. That's actually the opening scene to the first book. It's supposed to be in the first movie.
Oh yeah.
But they felt like the whole raptor eating that guy was a much better opening scene. But,
I forgot about how the first one
But
opened.
personally, I think that scene with that little girl is actually a way better opening scene to a film because it's filled with mystery. Like you don't really know what this family is all about. They're hanging out on this island. This little girl finds little tiny like cute things, and then they eat her. And it's like that to me is a way better way to establish the dinosaurs live in this world. Where instead of like a completely mysterious, in like a cheap way, like the raptors are you just don't see what the raptors look like, and then they pull a dude away, and it's like, okay, well, like how many monsters have we seen in movies? Like, that's not that amazing.
So you're arguing with Spielberg? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm arguing against Spielberg. Yeah.
It's not always right.
See,
no.
I'm quite impressed by Spielberg because he's still making really good movies. Martin Scorsese too. I'm so impressed. Yeah. When I was a kid, I thought that they were like from the past.
Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott as well. Yeah. Because like I wasn't paying attention to what Spielberg was doing, so when I you hear his name, and all the movies I had watched were old, and so I just thought that Spielberg hadn't made any movies in a long time. Then I found out like he's been doing it forever, and he's just constantly banging out like hits.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's clearly what he wants to do.
Oh, it's a true passion.
It's cool to find those individuals who truly want to do something because it interests them, not just because they want to make money doing it.
I think he comes from the perspective of what does somebody want to see.
Yep.
Not in a cheap way. Like, what do they actually want to see? Not talk them into something or like something cheap to catch their attention, but something they actually want to see.
Was he Jaws?
Yeah, I think so.
He also directed Land Before Time.
Oh yeah, the first one.
First one.
Land Before Time. I don't know why I heard Silence of the Lambs. Not even close.
Silence of the Lamb Before Time.
Did he do Contact? Was that him as well?
I don't know.
Because I know Contact is one of the best shot scenes, pretty much of all time. For where
the mirror shot.
The mirror shot. So the girl's dad collapses, or Jodie Foster's young self. Her dad collapses, and she goes running upstairs to grab his pills. And so it's this shot of her running up the stairs and down the hallway. But when she gets to the end of the hallway, the camera pans out, and it's actually like a mirror that you're watching her in. And then she opens the mirror. It's very unusual.
Very cool,
almost like the camera came out of the mirror. It's really well done.
I don't understand how they did the shot, but when you watch it, it's fantastic.
That's cool.
And that movie itself is so brilliant.
I love it. Yeah, not everybody does.
It's the best alien movie ever made, though.
I think
because every other alien movie, for the most part, ruins itself by being too specific.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about.
Well, people were ticked off too because they're expecting it to be specific. And
I know.
What? Wait a minute. What? That's her dad. What? What's the green guys? I want to see something with antennas and.
I think that's like the best way to ruin aliens is to show them.
Yeah.
Like I thought they were really dumb in like they were cool looking in War of the Worlds, but they didn't need to be. I think they were more terrifying as this like faceless creatures that control giant monsters.
Yeah, they shouldn't have left their tripods. I don't think because they did briefly in that movie.
I don't even remember the.
He was in the house with Tim
Robbins.
And
I should say though.
Wait a minute, that's Signs, isn't it?
No, Signs is Jacqueline Phoenix.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson.
And Tim Robbins was in the basement.
No, Tim Robbins was War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise.
Really?
Yeah.
Where he's like digging and he's like, "Not my blood."
Yeah.
That's War of the Worlds. Yeah.
Too much.
I say
I blended them together.
One of my favorite alien movies, and I might get made fun of this for this, but Battle LA is way better than people will give it credit for.
Yeah, that movie was really good. We watched that with you.
It depicts.
At the theater.
It's probably like one of my favorite ambush depictions. Like I was like legitimately on the edge of my seat in that scene when they first jump in They don't even know what they're going after. They just know that there's something going on.
And they know they're landing in the ocean.
Yeah, and the soldiers are moving through like suburbs and backyards, and then there's just like smoke everywhere, and a dude gets like dragged into nowhere. Like, that's fucking great. And then they show the aliens, and they're so strange that it's kind of hard to figure out what they look like, because they're like half armor, half biological. I love that movie. I think that's a really good movie, even though it hits like all the tropes. It still does it really well, and it manages to make aliens seem really fucking scary. In a less creepy way, like Armageddon? No, Independence Day.
Okay.
Armageddon was
there's a rock. There's no aliens in that one.
Scary rocks.
Big rock.
The alien in Independence Day was like done in like a creepy scary, right?
Yeah.
Not in like a
with a hint of humor.
There was
At least
some
they
humor.
barely showed it. At least it was like very
that
minimal.
was great.
Have you seen Arrival by chance?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
I
Finally, I've been raving about Arrival to him for a long time. I thought that one was really well done. Did you like it?
I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's another approach. Like it's.
Yeah. And I
no,
loved
it's
how
cool.
they spoke. The way they spoke by creating symbols in the air.
Yeah.
I thought that was very unusual. You know, we're a species that knows how to communicate verbally or by written message, but they're a species that communicates directly through written message. Like they make smoke symbols in the air that the other people read. They don't talk to each other. They actually send literal smoke signals, actually, now that I think about it. More accurate smoke signals.
Yeah, but did they talk to each other that way?
I thought so. Or did they make noises? They did. They had some like they actually sounded like War of the Worlds tripods. Like I think they made some like those types of noises, like boat horns off in the distance.
Yeah.
The Mars Attacks robots or aliens. They
with the exposed brains and stuff.
I don't remember that.
That was
it
was actually movie. Like a lot of there's a lot of stars in that movie. There was Jack Black, really Jack
I
Black.
remember there's a lot. Yeah, I just don't remember the movie.
Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, really?
Sarah Jessica Parker.
It was silly, wasn't it?
That was
very
That
silly.
was Tim Burton. That was like...
Oh, and that would explain it.
The way that Nostalgia Critic says it, he's like, every director has their Mars Attacks. For Tim Burton, it was Mars Attacks. It's like, you guys have heard Jumping the Shark?
No.
It's an expression for when your project is past its prime. It all came from an episode of Happy Days where the Fonz... he was called the Fonz, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. He jumps a shark on water skis. Like they somehow get a shark.
What? I didn't see that
in like
episode.
a cage or whatever, and he jumps it on water skis. And so it's known. It
jumps over it.
Yeah. like a speedboat and everything.
Okay.
And so it's known as Jumping the Shark because the show was way past its prime, and that was like the episode that represented how far past it. Like they had no more ideas; they were done.
Jumping the shark,
and they decided to make him jump a shark. And he has a really great point about it. He's like, yes, it was known as jumping. It's known as Jumping the Shark now, but it wasn't at the time. And Happy Days was like #1 for 7 years after that. So like it was only way in retrospect was that referred to as Jumping the Shark. Nobody gave them shit for that when it happened.
7 years after that.
How long
reruns.
was that on?
A long time.
Oh, reruns. I thought you meant they did another 7 years.
No.
And I was gonna say how far over the shark were they by the time they were finished with that?
I watched an episode of Happy Days just to find out. It was like it's like when somebody breaks down a joke for you that isn't funny. It's just like you get that it's a joke. You understand where the lead up and the punchline is. It's just not funny. And part of that is just because they were just so early.
Oh, different era.
They made the like that setup, right? And so it's been refined so well that
there was like maybe 12 like for people who were lucky. We only had 2 channels on our TV, but there was maybe 12 channels, and at night there was a lot of channels of playing the same thing, and Happy Days was one of them, and it was like it became like part of the family. You got so into the characters that it didn't even have to be that funny. It was just how they reacted through stories and stuff, and then just everybody got sucked right in, and there was not much else going on.
That's what Friends is. Friends was funny at the start, and then it eventually just became this thing where you needed to know what happened, even though it wasn't nearly as funny anymore.
But they're your buddies. You just tune in and
exactly. Well, Sarah and I have watched
from your own life.
We've watched Friends twice through. and we're currently on our third watch of it. It's just one of those things that, at least for us, we watch so much as kids that those characters are ingrained in my brain. Like, I know those character archetypes perfectly because of that show.
And that's sort of like I try to reduce the amount that I bring up Game Grumps, because I just know how it's just like, yeah, okay, like, we can talk about this thing that I don't really understand. But that's sort of the experience, is that I've grown to learn who they are as real people, to the point where I have like a creepy amount of knowledge of someone who doesn't know me. And that's sort of like, I think that's why the Let's Play format was so interesting to me, which is why I wanted to do it with you, because I knew that there was something that about you and I could present as a reality of a portion of who we are. Not the whole thing, but
I worry about that with Joe Rogan. We're thinking about buying tickets to go see him in September. And it was just something I was thinking about, that I know way too much about him considering I haven't met him. It seems kind of unusual. I know about his kids and his wife and his house, and just things that you're not supposed to know about someone you don't know. I've had many conversations about him, and he doesn't even know that I exist. I find that very unusual, and it's funny that I've never thought about the fact that that will happen on the other side, that I will be that person that people think about like that.
People will like say, like, you know,
fans.
like,
They're
how's Dexter
fans.
and shit like that, and it's like,
yeah. And I just imagine,
but I mean, that's a fan. It comes from fanatic.
Fanatic, yes.
And I've completely lost the fanatic side. I don't see anybody that way now, and it bothers me to see other people looking at these people. And I respect, you know, somebody works hard at something and they get to somewhere they go. I respect that, but I can't find my way back to that thing where I looked up, like, let's say, Led Zeppelin as gods. Especially
really
now
funny.
that I'm playing guitar and in a band, and I see they just picked up a guitar and they started come up with some stuff, and they all did it together, and it picked up. And then the more fans you have, the more fans you create, and it gets, you know, and then they become gods. And then now that I'm dissecting it, they're not. Nobody is.
They got lucky.
That's really interesting.
Everyone
because
gets lucky, really.
Years ago, you said that you feel bad for our generation for not having that experience.
Yes, the mythical thing behind
I was
it.
like watching streams of Periphery and reading about like the regular
interviews
lives
of them
and shit like that. Whereas
sitting around their house talking about stuff.
yeah, for you, they were like, Led Zeppelin was like a myth, a legend. It was like a thing you could the only experience you could get from them was the picture on the album, the lyrics written in the album, and the actual album itself.
Right. No YouTube. They weren't on TV. There's a magazine that have a couple of black and white pictures, maybe. Or
on the flip side, though, back in your day, like, let's say you were a major fan of George Carlin.
We don't have to say back in my day, because my day is still here, man.
Well, you were just saying that you felt bad that we were missing out on this era. So before
you young whippersnippers think you own this day?
Whippersnippers!
Before all of this, let's say you were a huge fan of George Carlin. The only things you know about George Carlin are things you see him say on squeaky clean, polished TV shows, like he goes on Carson, or he goes on Letterman, or he goes on Leno, or what you see him say on stage. That's it. That's all.
Yeah. He had albums, though, too.
But but what I meant is you basically only see his produced, published content.
Yeah, what he wants to present.
Yeah.
If you have some sort of a question about what Joe Rogan thinks about something, you can go find out what he thinks about that.
Yeah.
He's a real person. You know, Led Zeppelin, they weren't real people. They were gods. They were these shining examples. But Joe Rogan is the most accessible person in the world, pretty much. He has almost 1,200 3-hour podcasts of him talking.
Yeah.
Nobody is more accessible than that.
I think that's really interesting. I think we had talked about this last night, about how you cultivate other people's personalities by what you let them and don't let them get away with, right? When Led Zeppelin can have a rider that says, like, I want, you know, like an extravagant thing, or like, I want every single toilet stall to have this in it or something. Like, when you're allowed to do that for decades, like, that creates such that really changes who you are as a personality. Remember how Joe was talking about when he spent like an afternoon with Johnny Depp, and it was like an anxious thing, because it was like the bodyguards were like, "Where's Johnny? We always gotta know where Johnny is. Keep him in sight. Gotta keep him in arm's reach. Who's that? Why is that person near Johnny?" It's like Johnny can't do anything in his life without many people like just creating an insulated bubble around himself. what's his name? Matt Damon was on House of Lies, like early House of Lies. Have you seen that? But Matt Damon plays Matt Damon, and they're at a club, and Marty's talking to him, and everyone in the club is facing Matt Damon, even though they're not with Matt Damon. They're all looking at him. And he's like, "How do you do it?" And he's like, "I don't know, man. You just believe like what they like. People will believe about you what they want to believe about you, and then you kind of just accept that that's who you are now. Like you are you are the god they're looking at. At a certain point, you kind of have to just accept it, right?
That actually works for people who aren't famous.
Mm.
You know, like
yeah,
in a small town or at work,
managers,
people believe
man.
what they want to believe, whatever they see your image as, and
shitty managers do that. They justify who they are by believing that it's a requirement to be that way as a manager.
Right.
That this is who I am now. I'm not here to make friends. Like, okay, doesn't mean
such a silly.
Doesn't have to mean you have to create enemies, but
like I miss having gods like the Led Zeppelins and the Pink Floyds and all that and Skinner's and how amazing it was. Like, wow, this was a concert on this day with this song with these guys when they're all alive and stuff like that. And now I'm like, it was just a concert.
I think meeting
do
the
we
real
need
people
gods?
Could be like that, because it was like when we met Danny and Brian from NSP, it was surreal. Like I still to this day don't fully like I don't really have like a full experience of that happening, because like I have a photograph of it happening, but like when it was happening, it was like not happening. But I really like knowing that the people that create really impressive content are real. Like, to me, that's
true. But they're just
actually
you.
Better.
They're just you before the.
That's what I mean.
After the popularity sunk in.
As a creator, I'm more interested in the obtainable people, right?
That's inspiring to know that they're the same as you. Thinking that they're gods means I can never do that. I'm not a god.
Like Spielberg to me is still like that.
Discouraging.
Like Spielberg's this like unobtainable person in both meeting him and in the kind of content that he creates.
Same with James Cameron.
Whereas
Spielberg is a guy who took the steps in the right direction and had the talent once he got to these various places.
And he got in
the
at
same
the right
as you
time.
guys. You guys have the same thing. You have the talent and you're taking steps in the right direction. So are they really any better than you?
Right now, yes. But do they have greater potential? Potentially no.
I would say that they're I don't think I have the same sort of level of detail drive that they do. When you think about these great mosaic movies that they've made that have all of these different aspects to them that come together into this flawless piece of work, I could do it. I think if I really wanted to make like a great movie, I could potentially do it. I just don't think I have the stamina to do it the way they do it. I think that James Cameron will always be, will probably always be more talented than I am. I don't necessarily know. Like, it's not to say that I won't eventually have fame of my own and do great things. But James Cameron, I would say, is one of the most talented people ever, pretty much, in a lot of ways. So same with Elon Musk. Like, you could be a really smart dude, but
just imagine, let's just say if you took away all the hurdles, what you could do if you were free to do anything you wanted with the tools you already have. I bet you could do some pretty amazing things.
That is a good point with unlimited resources.
Yeah, because there was a point when he was not there and didn't have the resources and was probably making some shit like crap. Like, he just kept refining it and then learning how to aim in the right direction to get the momentum going. And as you get going, like the bigger you get, the more asses you get, etc.
That's true. There is also undeniable talent. Like certain people are just very, very good actors. And, when you look at someone like Leo or Denzel Washington or Samuel L. Jackson, like these guys are clearly very talented at what they do. Yes, they had the right opportunities, and yes, they just worked hard at it. But there's also some aspect of that is just God-given gift. There's some portion of that is just the way they are.
Well, using what you have in the right way.
Exactly, leveraging your advantages.
And some people have more or less, yes.
Well,
but
a lot of people...
I still don't think we need gods. I think we need to admire people.
Mm-hmm. Be inspired.
Mostly, yeah.
Find inspiration.
But to be like ripping the grass out under where the Beatles walk by and you're ripping out the grass because that's where he stepped, doesn't seem like a healthy.
How does that?
Doesn't seem like a necessary thing for us.
First of all, that's illegal.
How does that not? Fuck,
you need a permit.
Not fuck somebody up though. Like how do you recover from people like trying to take the grass where you walked on? How do you not become?
Ask Keanu.
Exactly.
You have to ask Keanu Reeves. He's one of the few people who's still very normal despite being incredibly famous.
I think it's because he started off with a lot of really shit. Like a lot of bad shit happened to him when he was young.
They do say that the most interesting people tend to have the hardest childhoods.
I don't know. It was what's his name? Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails said that after a while, the people calling you God, you start to believe it. So it is something that I think that you need to stay on top of.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You need to actively try to keep yourself.
And to have
from
people in your life that don't treat you like that, like Dave Grohl was saying that his kids don't give a fuck that he's a rock star.
Yeah, I hear that a lot about celebrities' kids.
Yeah.
That's the only way to raise kids normally.
It's probably like that with like Will Smith and his family.
What?
Your kids have to just treat you as their parent, not as the celebrity that you are. I see. Right? If your kids treated you as a celebrity, well, that's the thing.
Kids, like the people outside of the family see him as a god, but the family knows he just puts on one pant leg at a time and farts and does stupid things and makes mistakes, and what he presents has already been worked on and polished and tuned in the right direction. Whereas what came before that was like crap, you know.
Well, and I think
that's like everybody's like that.
That's the big key, though. A lot of people either A, don't care to cut the content down to the polished bits, B, are not good at cutting the content down to the polished bits.
Sorry, that brings us back to what's on YouTube now. That's what I see. That's the shit that I see. Because when I grew up, everything was already polished in a certain way,
because it came to you by like internet
polished.
or radio,
polished
right?
It was like not polished, but crafted. It was crafted before it was released. All the crap was thrown away on the floor. Right now, it's like
intention
just out there and all over the place. That's all I see is these cheap, tacky fillers. That's the static, and I don't like it anymore. I don't like it that way. I mean, it's great that there's freedom and everybody can do their shit.
That's why when people tell me about new shows, I just go, I don't have time. Because there's so many new shows being made that yes, I'm sure lots of them are great. But the reality is that some of them are just kind of slapped together, and also
Z Nation.
Well, let's not be too specific here.
Was that Pat? Was that the? What's his name?
I just already gave you shit on the show for that, so I don't want to bring it up again.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that YouTube has a big problem with that because of the way that they give people money, because of the way they pay their creators. They pay people, like Mitchell was just saying, off of the watch time and the consecutive minutes that are watched, which incentivizes people to make long videos. And in our setting, we got really lucky in that all of our content is geared towards long videos. That's just the way, that is the nature of our content, is that it has to be long. Whereas there's a lot of people who their content is, oh, let me tell people these tasty tidbits about something. Let me tell people this fun fact about that. Let me tell people about the situation going on here. And those things are 2 to 5 minutes usually, but the videos are always 10. Dude. Or it's 1 minute and the video's 5.
The other day,
there's a lot of that going on.
Yes.
Dad and I were on YouTube, and I was showing him how there are editorial videos out there where a person will, every single video they make is an hour and a half, like a Mitch show style, but an hour and a half. And I was saying, like for me, I'm trying to cut them down. Each one gets a little bit shorter, and I'm like happy that this next one's probably going to be like 12 minutes, and that's like a really good timing for me. Whereas like the Battlefront video was like, I felt like bloated. I felt like 30 minutes was really bloated for that kind of content. And then here's this person who's like, every single episode is an hour and a half, and there's no fucking way they need that time.
I can relate that to like when I first started recording guitar, and there's this feeling that comes over to you that like you feel like you're producing something completely new in the universe, and that if you cut it down, you're going to be throwing away some of that valuable stuff. So like my first recorded cassette had like songs like 7 minutes long with just the repeating chords and some lead in it, and I thought I can't cut any of this, it's all amazing. And then when you listen to it in hindsight, it's like, oh god, jeez, oh man,
slow.
And then I came to, and it was like, wait a minute, what do you mean the average song is 3 minutes? That's impossible. That's only 3 minutes. That's like, that can't happen. But then when you look at it, it's true. most songs are 3 minutes, and there's lots of stuff packed in there.
Yep.
But the people, especially my day, had more time, more patience. Now you need like to get your shit done in 10 seconds, or you've lost them. They're on to the next slide.
But that's what's weird, is that now it has less to do with keeping people and more to do with bringing them in. It tends to be that if you get someone to start watching a 10-minute video, a lot of people will watch that whole thing.
Really?
Something that I have seen regularly is people, they're scrolling through Facebook, because this is where the power comes from. YouTube videos embedded into Facebook and Instagram. I don't know if you can do it on Instagram, but you can totally do it on Facebook. So I've seen people who will scroll past a video and start watching it, and then after a while they go, oh, Jesus Christ, this video is 7 minutes long. Mm-hmm. And they've already watched 3 minutes of it because they were assuming it was going to end. They were assuming it was going to be short.
Oh, I see.
So this guy with this hour-and-a-half video, he knows that he's going to get enough random noise of just people who somehow end up there, people who forget to turn off their computer, people who just happen to be there on the play next.
The autoplay.
That is an hour-and-a-half worth of watch time for him, and he is comfortable, apparently, in his own life, to be making money based off what is essentially a fluke.
Yes.
The difference between him and us is that, let's say YouTube as a platform were to just collapse. It'd be shitty because we'd lose all of our archives because we don't have all of it saved. But what we've done is we've cultivated something that we believe people will actually want to hear. So it doesn't matter what platform we're on. It doesn't matter how we get monetized. We have a product that people might be interested in. Mm-hmm. This guy doesn't have shit. What he's got is a little bit of ad revenue, and that's all. So to me, I can't sleep at night knowing that I'm living and basing my income off of what is essentially random noise in the background on YouTube, and hoping that that bubble doesn't break. Because if it does, my income's gone, and I don't even have a vehicle to get it back.
Right.
Whereas, you and us, we want things to be polished and concise. We want them to bring people in and be interesting from the beginning to the end. So it doesn't matter where you put that. You put it on TV, you put it on YouTube, you put it on your own website. People will watch, but people are not going to watch an hour-and-a-half of bullshit if it's on, www.pleasewatchmylongvideos.com, right? People are only going to watch it while YouTube is there feeding them to him.
Yep. I watched a video one time. It was a Let's Play of this guy, and it was so, I just couldn't believe how boring it was. Like he had no interest in like entertaining whatsoever, and he was like sitting there in silence, reading things in the game and being like, what? Oh. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, why the fuck would people watch this? And I realized that I had been sitting there watching it for 10 minutes trying to figure it out. I'm like, well, everyone probably just comes up with their own reason for why they're watching it, but
you're a little different though. You're doing research, right?
I get this was so far long ago that I wouldn't say it was quite research. That
really?
Was during the time when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Because if you look at our stuff right now, it's like 700 videos. It's like staggering. And then you look at Joe, and he's got 1,200 3-hour podcasts, and then you see Game Grumps has 6,500 videos, and it's staggering. It's like, how the fuck can you do that? Mm-hmm. But when it's over many, many, many years, it feels like something like impossible to get to when you see it. And there was one like that where
they're not all high production videos either, like
that's
yours.
True. That's true. But still, like 6,000 videos is like a crazy amount of videos, whether it's good or bad. Yeah. But I just thought it was really interesting. Forgotten what the point of bringing this up was.
I've forgotten what the point of the internet was supposed to be.
The whole thing was about static, and it's like that's what's happened to the world. It's I think of like when you walk through Walmart, why do you feel so tired when you leave? And then I started catching myself. My peripheral is being bombarded by brand names and things screaming out to me the look, and so you find yourself looking at everything in case you miss something. And why is that important? It's probably because when we were walking through the bush, we needed to see that leopard in the bush. We needed to see the prey,
or what we were gathering,
or what we might, we needed for survival. So like when I'd walk through Walmart, I'd try walking straight forward, and that's the opposite of how the world has become. Especially in the city, like everywhere you go, there's an advertisement. You can't even rest your eyes for a second without somebody advertising their seat, their product you need to buy, or everything that's been created has a name on it. And I think that's extremely tiring and not really progress.
Yeah.
What did you say yesterday? That we've made all this progress, but we haven't gotten anywhere?
Well, have we, like, because in let's say the 1800s, before electricity and before running water and all that, you had to get on your horse to go ride half a day to go talk to somebody, and it had so much more value, and you appreciated that time. You had time to think, you relaxed, you came home after the day out in the fields or whatever, and you sat with the family, because there was no TV, no radio. You just sat and talked. You had some time, and then you went to bed, and your mind wasn't cluttered. It was very tactile. Everything you did was with your hand. There was no fake light and blasting in the eyes. There was no distractions. So many things. I gotta have that. How am I gonna get that and all that stuff? And flipping through stuff.
There's a great show called
how we actually. Sorry. No, I was just, my point was that the technology has evolved forward with all these technologies, but have we actually have we improved?
Basically just with medicine. It's the only thing
medicine
truly improved.
And it's a lot easier to record
because back then
with multi-tracking.
You ride to the other guy, it takes you like a quarter of a day. You ride back, it takes you a quarter of a day, but somewhere along the way you scratched yourself, and next thing you know they have to amputate your leg. And now, you're lying at home on a fucking cot, and they're bringing you gin for the pain, and like trying to boil water and keep things clean. And the next thing you know, you get an infection and die, and your family has to sit around and watch that happen.
It was I forget how many years ago it was. 39 was the average lifespan.
Oh.
I forget. It wasn't that long ago. Like
God,
the 20s
that is so
or 30s.
young now. 39.
Yeah, 20s or 30s or something, and then it shot up to like 70 or whatever after that. So that's good, but does that measure success, like a better life? Because if you're living twice as long, but it's not as healthy.
But the life you're living,
yeah, I don't know. Like, is it quantity versus quality?
That's a very good point. Have you seen The Outsiders TV show?
The Outsiders?
Yeah.
The mountain people.
Yeah. So it's a show about this civilization, this sort of like reasonably large group of people who have been living on a mountain for like many generations, and it's such an intense mountain that it's like really hard to get them off of there, and they're basically living off of the land. They don't use currency, they don't allow other people inside, they have their own civilization up there, and you basically can't get them down because it's just like such a like untamed mountaintop, and
they'll kick your ass.
Oh yeah, like you'll disappear, and then what are you gonna do? This guy lived there. He was born there, and then he left for a couple of years, and he lived like like everybody else in California, and then he came back. And this guy lies to him, and he goes, once you've spent a couple weeks without television and video games constantly bombarding you with information, you start to pick up on the little things, like when someone's lying to you. And I just thought that was such a great perspective, that this guy used to live like this, went back to the way that we're used to, and then back to the life of no television and radio and all that stuff, and no phone and no constant notifications. And so he has this perspective. He understands the difference between the two ways of life, and has now decided that he's done with our way of life.
I don't think there's a problem with the things that we have. I think there's a problem with the way that they're being used.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a great way to go and do your job, and when you come home from your job, you have a normal family life, and part of that family life is some form of entertainment, whether it be radio or TV. And on your way to and from work, you can listen to podcasts, which is now found time. You can learn things while you're traveling. There's a lot of things that you can do to improve your life.
There are some good stuff, yes.
The big problem is how people choose to use it, because what I see the most is I see a lot of people who are essentially dependent upon social media.
Totally.
It's a habitual thing.
It used to be TV, now it's social media.
Yes, I've definitely noticed that transition has taken place, but the problem is that social media, I would say, is more destructive than television in a lot of ways.
Oh, totally.
Because it's much more addictive.
I do that with Imgur.
I guess, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's more addictive.
Than television?
Yeah, because people, that's what they would do. They would come home, have dinner, clean up, and then sit down in front of the tube until they went to bed.
But that's the
And
difference.
They couldn't
though.
imagine not
They can
doing
be
it.
on social media while they're at
Yes,
work, while they're going to the bathroom, while they're doing their breakfast, while they're brushing their teeth.
Yes.
There are some people.
No,
While
that's-
they're
I'm
with
not-
their
I'm just talking
children.
about which one's more addictive. I think the addiction is the same. It is access is easier now. It's portable. It's always.
I think you're underestimating the power of the click, the power of the like.
Yeah.
I've talked to many people who will tell me how many likes they got on their photos. And in my head, I'm thinking,
Ugh.
that actually means so little to me. I wish you didn't tell me, but cool. And the thing is, they are so dependent upon that number being at a place that they are happy with. That the appropriate number of people who are quote unquote in their lives have responded to this thing that they've done. People are no longer contented to tell someone, I went on a trip. They have to have those pictures associated with a little blurb of words,
Yeah.
enough likes and enough comments to make the post seem like it worked. And that's how they get their story out there. So then you go and see them for Christmas, and instead of saying, oh, what did you do this summer? And they say, I went on this amazing trip. Instead you say, I saw the photos you put up of your amazing trip. It looked awesome. And then you talk about something else.
A buddy of mine just came back from a trip, and I didn't see a single photograph. He just told me all about it. I loved it. It was great.
See, there's a way to be a natural human these days.
Yeah.
I sometimes say this to my girlfriend. I say that we are kind of like the last generation of natural humans, because the next generation will be born straight into the internet.
Well, you and I didn't really have. We didn't have internet until we were like 10.
Yeah,
And then it
we were
was
10.
dial up, and it was garbage, and it was like connected to the phone. So there was like a sense of like now I feel always connected, and I don't like it. I don't like how I'm always connected. Whereas before, like
I'm trying not to say, oh yeah.
you, what's that?
You guys grew up with before the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I thought it was the obvious. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but
I had Pong, right? By Pong.
what do
No,
you
but
say?
that's what I'm saying is
We didn't even have Pong. Sorry,
you're
we
a
didn't have
natural
Pong.
human. We are natural humans, but the next evolution of humans will live in essentially a fully artificial world in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
You know, we came from an era where you did have to go to a friend's house. You had to memorize a 10-digit phone number. That shit is gone. I just had a girl who needed.
We used to memorize 7. They weren't even 10
okay,
yet.
yeah, there was no. Well, no, there were area codes. We just didn't have to remember them.
Right.
They always
we
existed.
didn't need them.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is there was someone who needed to call someone, and they asked if they could use my phone, but they didn't know the number they needed to call, so they were trying different numbers, and they kept getting like wrong numbers or busy signals.
Right.
Whereas it used to be like, do you know what your mom's number is? Oh yeah, 777-4189. Like just people knew it off the top of their head.
Yes.
They knew their best friend, their mom, their dad. Like they knew all these phone numbers. They knew how to call mom at work. They knew what her extension was off by heart. But these days, it's all in the cell phone. Why do you need to have it in your head? Right? There's a lot of things like that that have definitely shifted.
The amount of times I've had arguments with people and nobody wants to pull out their phone to make sure that we know like the truth about the situation. It's pretty funny.
Sometimes it's good to do it that way. Sometimes you don't need an answer.
Yeah, but
sometimes it's better to debate.
Sometimes it's like if we were sitting here and the topic was Steven Spielberg movies and we could only remember 3 collectively and we were like, God, what are those? What else did he do? It's like it would be simple.
It is, but that's debatable. You really need to know because, like,
you can move on to another
conversation,
topic.
like the bonding experience, is definitely interrupted by. Hold on, Google.
Well, clearly, you don't know shit about Steven Spielberg movies if you can't list more than 3, right?
If you you pulled out a bunch of his films and you went through them, then I think you'd actually have a lot of stuff to talk about because you'd be like,
I also find the moment's gone by.
Yeah, that's the question. Is this a moment that we're going to
this insert here? Here comes the assembly line. Insert here. We didn't know what it is, so okay, I'm get Google, but now it's already down the line and nobody cares. Like you're already moved on to something else.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, are we now going to do an expose on all of his movies, or were we, like, as a group? Let's say we're a group of 3 people talking, which we are, and someone said, "Oh yeah, Steven Spielberg movies." Are the other 2 people really so interested to talk about Steven Spielberg movies that they want to go through his filmography one at a time? Maybe. Or do we want to just chat about it quickly and then that would evolve into something else? But that's what I'm saying. You might have wanted to, but it's not necessarily the whole group that wants to. Sometimes pulling out your phone is captivating the whole... Everyone's like, oh, real information. But the fucking real information comes from here, out of the mouth.
Is it about the experience or is it about the topic?
I would say it's about the experience.
Most of the time, yeah. Unless you're actually doing a science project together or something, then it makes more sense to get it all right down.
If people are arguing, if someone's like, no, this is like, he definitely directed that movie, and someone else goes, no, he definitely didn't direct that movie, then you're idiots if you sit there and argue instead of pulling out the phone, right? Because that's meaningless. Like, who cares who remembered the proper thing? Let's figure it out or move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of people who will do that. They'll go back and forth as if the internet isn't sitting in their pocket waiting to tell them the answer. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Progress. Or not. Progress
for the sake of progress. That's what we've got. But you know what? It's the system we've got, and I think we've figured out ways to work within it.
And then there's that it brings me sort of to the touchy subject of video gaming in itself, because Dan and I, your uncle Dan and I, spent probably right up until we were about 10, 11, under the deck, making cities in the sand with small cars and putting stories to them, and that was really a clean. I don't know how do I word that. It wasn't very complicated in your mind. It was very focused, very tactile. We didn't even have Pong. I always say we had Pong, but Pong, like, that was just, we were teenagers and our cousins had it in the city and they got bored of it and they gave it to us, and we were like, I can't believe we can plug something into the TV and see it on the screen. Wow, we didn't even play it that much, but it was really fast, cool, like that was cool. So we didn't have internet, we didn't have the video game experience. We spent a lot of time outside, not just with the toys, but in the bush and stuff like that, and it was very uncluttered. But when you guys came along, there was already a Nintendo, really cool stuff that Dan and I surely would have been completely addicted to this day if it was available.
Well, you say to this day, but I'm a person who's played more than 3,000 hours of World of Warcraft. But I can't find, the only games I can find time to play are the ones I'm prepping for Bros Play. Other than that, I don't play video games at all.
Oh, I constantly play video games. Sometimes I don't even want to. I just would prefer to do that than the other stuff I don't want to do.
See, I think that's kind of interesting because we both came from almost an identical background of what is essentially video game addiction.
Oh, I'm 100% addicted to video games. I like, while Dad is staying here in the room where I played my PS4, I set my PS4 up in the other room so that I could play 20 minutes this morning and maybe 20 minutes tonight. It's a pure addiction, and I'm quite aware of it.
And here's a good argument then.
Very lucky that it's turned into also my passion.
This is a debate you probably haven't had yet.
Interesting.
Is there more value in focusing that time on art, whether it be guitar or drawing or sculpting or architecture, or you're creating something, or not? Or is video gaming equal to guitar playing, saxophone playing, musical instruments?
Because now I have three sort of steps, I guess. There's playing the game, which is consumption. Then there's playing it with Derek on the show, which is sort of consuming the game while also creating something for others to consume.
That doesn't count.
And then there's
the show. The show is the instrument. In my opinion, you're. I'm just talking about. Okay, so all right.
Let me finish because I have a point. Okay, and then there's Mitch show, where I spend 6 times longer on each minute. Like, essentially, I spend 6 minutes for every minute I played, where I am creating way more than I consumed from that thing for a very tiny bit of something that is consumed for others. I can tell you for a fact that creating is way more fun than consuming. It just begins at consumption.
You say fun, but do you mean rewarding?
Both.
I'm talking about value. Is it a waste of? Is it a pastime to play video games, or is it actually like, or is learning guitar and stuff? Let's say an musical instrument. Is that just a pastime, or does that have some kind of added value over video game?
It depends on how you do it.
To me, I'm not really interested in other things. So to me, playing games isn't really a waste of time unless I know I could be doing something better. So like when I play games also completely changes how I feel about it. Like on a weekday, I have no problem playing games for the only time that I have because I'm too exhausted to correctly work on videos. So there's no wasted time. It's like this is the time for me to relax, and that's what I do. But on a regular Saturday,
that's a whole subject. I don't know how you relax when you're playing video games. I've never had that experience.
On a regular Saturday,
it's stress, man. It's stress. It's always.
It's also not relaxing when I try to play guitar, but it clearly is when you do it.
That could be stressful. Playing guitar if you're learning it.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Damn, yeah, okay, I get that.
That is exactly what I'm saying. You're learning to play video games.
No, but
so
once you get good at it, I still don't understand because you're constantly waiting. You're trying to attack the game. You got a time limit. You're like, this guy's coming after you. If you don't get him, like, how is that relaxing?
Oh, it's I guess
I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just curious.
Actually. I think relaxing is the wrong word. I think maybe
therapeutic
consumption would be a better word because that's what it is.
No, therapeutic might be a good word.
Yeah, okay, I get that. That makes sense.
I think part of it is that,
like you used to smash TVs with.
Well, if I can answer your question, I would say that if you're someone who just plays guitar because you appreciate the sound of it and you like the feeling of your fingers on the keys, then that's fantastic. But in a way, that is the same type of pastime as playing a video game. But if you're somebody who wants to write music and play music for people and make it into something that you want to actually do, it would be the same as what I do. I only play games when I'm prepping for the channel, which is something we're producing. So really, it's with anything in life. And I've even noticed this because I have a lot of things going on. Like I like to doodle. I like to do various other things related to the channel and, reading my books and things like that. And what I've started to notice is that there's two ways to do anything in life. You can do it purely for enjoyment, or you can do something that will add up to something later. That's the big key.
I think
if it's going to add up to something, it's productive. If it's not, it's a pastime. To me, that's what it is.
I come from a different era where, let's say before video gaming, it would be if somebody spent 4 hours a night throwing darts at a board or playing board games or what other kind of games are there? If every night they spend 4 hours playing baseball, somebody might
shooting arrows.
Somebody might find that excessive. Instead of getting stuff done or whatever, they'd say maybe like you're just doing that a bit too much. And so the argument would be like, but if somebody spent that much time playing guitar or violin or something or piano, they wouldn't question it. They'd say, well, that's a valuable thing because they're learning to be a really good player. And now. And that's how I went into this whole subject in my mind. But then I came back out after having some discussion that it's still equal because like if you get to be really good at playing games, you're a really good gamer. If you're really good on a violin, are you any better than a person who's good at gaming? No, not really, because people, well,
you can't perform playing a video game for people.
Well, technically,
not the same way.
Live streaming is is much more of a performance.
No, but that's what I mean. So people in your actual life are very unlikely to watch you play a video game, like spouse, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, friends. But people will listen to you play an instrument if you know how to do it, right?
And then they get bored of that too, though.
But no, that is absolutely true.
Okay, are you going to do that? Okay, do you mind turning that down? I'm trying to watch this.
To really answer your question, though, I think creating is definitely much more. The value of creating is much better than playing.
Yeah, like, creating versus consuming.
So far, this has happened on every Mitch show I've made consistently. The only reason why I make a Mitch show is because I enjoy the game enough to want to present it to other people, and there becomes a point where I'm not finished the Mitch show and I do not want to play the game anymore, and I have to force myself to play it, and I like become very aware of what I'm really doing right now, whereas playing a new game is like a drug. So it's like essentially the old drug is worn off. I still want to show it to people because I want them to find the drug. It's just a weird analogy, but an hour playing games is consumption, and then it's over, and there's nothing. You don't bring anything with you. All you have is the idea of getting to it next time. Whereas when I spend an hour creating, there's something there at the end, and I can present it to someone. I can watch it myself. I can feel good about it. I feel way better going back to work after a weekend of lots of work instead of going back to work after a weekend of just gaming.
Right.
Yeah, I think consumption versus creation is really what it is, because you're either consuming, even when you're playing guitar for no purpose, that is consumption. It's just not consumption in the same way. Whereas, yeah, if you're creating something and you have things you can go back to and look at, that's what makes you feel good. It's when you see, oh, wow, like, look at all this bank of recordings that I've made. Like, these are all things that I've done. And I think that I'm the same way as you are, where I'll read the book the first time and I love it because I'm reading it purely for my own enjoyment, just so that I can get the story. And then I have to restart and read it and take notes as I go. And by the time I am done that process, I am done with that book. Because now I've read it twice in a month, and I've had to dissect it and take all the little pieces out of it.
Too much about it now.
Exactly. Now I'm in the creation phase, and I don't feel good about the creation phase while I'm creating as much as I do after I'm done creating. It's about the feeling of knowing you got something done more than the feeling of knowing you're doing it.
And that's how you know. That's the only way that I can gauge whether something I'm going to show people is interesting is based on how I felt the first time. And that's what I do with Mitch Show. When I put together a joke and I laugh about it and I'm like, good, that's a good joke. I'm gonna watch it so many times that it becomes
not funny,
numb.
I know, yeah.
I just have to trust that it still works.
It loses its meaning.
And that's like
to
that
you.
trust is like, that's really scary, putting something out in the world that you don't find funny anymore, and knowing it is funny or thinking it's funny.
Hoping it's funny.
And then there's like the crazy thing of watching it with people in the room and seeing them laugh at parts you didn't find funny and not laugh at parts you did find funny, and then you're like, holy fuck, my baby.
Another way of putting what I had just raised is I think there's perception has to change or is changing with the whole video gaming thing. But a parent who sees their kid playing 4 hours a night of video games isn't going to be as happy as a parent who sees their kid playing guitar or playing hockey every night and getting better at it. But when you dissect it, it's just perception, because it's the hockey player or the guitar player, they aren't necessarily going to be famous and make money at it. They're just doing something that really makes them feel good, and isn't that the same thing that the video gamer's doing?
And all three of them, the excess of all three of them can be bad. Hockey creates lots of injuries. Playing instruments can create like whatever, tendon problems.
Hits to the back of the head for not getting your homework done or something.
Right.
If you're not balancing your life.
And then video games create like I think part of why I wear glasses is because how much time I spent staring at screens.
No, there's that
at
too,
the same time, but so did Derek.
Yeah, that's what I keep
and
thinking.
You don't have glasses. So
we have such divergent paths that I think it's a pretty good example that the video games themselves aren't the problem. It's like you just said. If someone's spending 4 hours playing guitar every night and they're not doing their homework and they're not focusing on other things, they're not interacting with their family, they're not going out with their friends, you'd be worried about them. If your kid spent all day locked in his room reading books, you'd be just as worried, even though books we generally tend to think of as being better for people than TV. It's just the simple fact that people aren't supposed to do one thing to the exclusion of everything else.
Right.
We've always known that. When has that not been true for our society, right? I hope we gave you some answers. I feel like I got some answers today.
I was just curious. I mean, because it's coming from gamers, you'd have a different perspective, completely different.
Yeah, especially because we were born into it, right?
Well, it's new for me, like the whole creating thing, because I never really viewed bros play as a creation thing. It technically is, but it's really I'm consuming while I'm doing bros play. So it's just like a really good yield off of something that I enjoy doing. But this year has been the first year I've actually finally done Mitch Show and made sure that I did it. And I can tell you for sure that even when you're not fully 100% about what you create, it's still way better than just consuming the content, like hands down. And now it's kind of hard for me, the same way with Derek, it's kind of hard for me to play something that I don't feel like will eventually come to the channel in some form. And then sometimes, like, once I realize like this doesn't really have a place, it stops being interesting to me. Because I always want to present it to somebody. That's just my thing.
Right.
I just really like talking about stuff that I like. And so if I feel like it just can't
that relates
talk
to
about
guitar
it, then,
too. I can spend so many hours in the basement playing the guitar, but it'd be nice to present it to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, the real question is, do you feel like it's a waste of time? Because if you're honest with yourself and you feel like what you're doing is a waste of time, you got to really look at that and think about what you can do to try not to do that waste as much.
Yeah.
If you feel like television's really weighing you down, maybe you set yourself a television schedule. Or...
See, that's kind of like the Hippocratic hypocrisy of it all is that the parents who are upset that their kids are spending 4 hours on video games have spent most of their lives watching 3 or 4 hours of TV every night.
Yep. Yeah, and I've noticed that, like I saw a cartoon that really hit the nail on the head. It was a mom with her smartphone and her kid sitting next to her with a smartphone in his hand. And she looks over at this other mom who's reading a book, and her kid's reading a book too, and she says, "How do you get them to read books?" Monkey see, monkey do, right?
Yeah.
Kids will follow whatever example they're given. So this is something that has been an issue for a while. People always want to people always want to blame the new generation. They always want to blame this new generation. But do you know who has the least power in the world? Fucking kids.
Oh, yeah.
Kids have no power or control or even the ability to decide what things go into their head. So it really is all up to the parents.
Well, yeah, it's the parent generation you should have a problem with. If you don't like that this generation doesn't know enough of Led Zeppelin, get mad about the parents who didn't show them Led Zeppelin. Like, what the fuck was that?
That was my phone.
Jesus Christ, that scared me. Someone playing a violin over there?
No, it's just my notification.
What the fuck was I talking about?
Parents.
The parents of the generation.
Right. Yeah.
Well, which brings me like we can bitch about anything that is wrong in society, and what I've just come to the conclusion of recently was that laws won't change it, governing doesn't change it, but trying to get the message out can over time. And we usually say, like they shouldn't be doing this, they shouldn't be doing that. No, they shouldn't. But that only changes if everybody else feels the same way.
We also need solutions more often than anything. Just telling people not to do stuff. Get them not to do it. Maybe find something else that they can be doing.
Well, I want to get really upset about the way parents have been, even my generation, have been raising kids, not realizing how much power they have. It's like to neglect a child or to put too much attention on a child can totally affect their lives forever. And then they will go out and they will affect some other kid because of that. And it goes on for generations. And that's such a powerful thing to be a parent. Yet it's not presented that way to kids when they're growing up so that they have that in their brains already.
It's a very good point that everyone sort of underestimates what your childhood does for you, like what your childhood does to make you who you are. And I think that there's a lot of people that assume if they keep their kids alive that that's all they have to do.
Right.
Yeah. And quite honestly, that's not enough. I'm sorry if you can't do more, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
You need to give that kid everything you've got. And, as someone who's not a parent, I can't really comment on how that works or what it takes, but I do know that you need to try. And I have seen a lot of people who it's pretty obvious that they're not trying.
No.
And, at that point, it's hard to feel any pity for somebody when you can tell that they're not even putting in the minimal amount of effort that it takes in order to make sure that they're...
those are like the parents, they're like the people that get a pet but don't actually want the maintenance. They just want that cute pet run around, but they don't actually want to clean up after it or feed it or take it to the vet or whatever they ought to do. There's kids are the same thing. We got to have kids, a house, picket fence and all that. But then when the kids come, it's like, what? Well, that damn thing sleep. I'm trying to get some sleep, for God's sake.
If you don't want to live in reality, then you don't have the right to participate in certain things. If you want to live in a fantasy world, then you kind of have to live on your own and live in a digital realm. It's the only place that fantasy worlds exist. If you want to have a pet, you got to take care of it.
Or parents who give their kids everything so they don't have to earn anything, expect life to be like that when they get out. So they have kids. Like, I don't know, I have to look after it. I was going to have kids, but that's not. How come nobody's looking after this thing?
A child educated only at school is an uneducated child.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's sort of like when they tell you in college that you should, for every hour you spend in school, you should spend an hour at home with the work. Like that's the best way for you to.
That's a rule.
Yeah, that's the general rule, which is like 80 hours a week on schoolwork is a little excessive, but is it not?
No. That's the stupidest thing. That they would say that.
Yeah.
For every hour in class, you should spend an hour at home. Well, then, motherfucker, let me go home half an hour. Like,
right.
Let me go home halfway through the day. How about?
It's like this is I have 2 3-hour classes, so you want me to spend 6 hours tonight after my 6. That's 12 hours. That's longer than a work day.
Your child will have 2 hours of homework in my class tonight.
You guys didn't have homework, right? After a certain year, you did it in class. Like, we always had to have, at least 4 or 5 subjects to bring home.
I agree with homework for the most part, unless it's like larger projects. Like, kids kids should have the time to spend time with their family that isn't doing work from school.
Well, yeah, you think I go home and do work without getting paid for it?
Exactly.
Now, as an adult?
Dude,
I
used to get pissed when I got a text message from my boss. I was like, no, I'm at home.
Oh, that's totally the way it should be. But I don't know if you can compare that to school, because school, you're learning something. You're trying to find the best possible way to retain all that knowledge.
But
Whereas when you're at work, that's what you retained it for, is when you go to the workplace.
But I guess what I'm saying is you're asking the youngest, lowest attention span group of people to spend the most amount of time focusing on things that are actually not even applicable to the real world around them. And, you know, you're learning algebra.
That's a whole other subject.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're going to teach me all this random crap because one day it will be helpful to me, you've got to give it to me in a digestible way.
Are you telling me that you haven't found it useful to know the distance across a river that you cannot cross when you know the Pythagorean? It's like, how many times have I ever had to get a rope across a bridge and I knew the information because I learned it?
See, I'm an exception because I work in engineering, so I actually use a lot of the mathematics that they always tell you, like, you'll eventually use this in your life. Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is that when you put that much on a kid, you got to do 8 hours of school plus whatever, 4 to 6 hours of homework in the night. That kid now doesn't want to do any of it. He doesn't want to do the first 8 hours nor the second 6 hours. But if you told him it was only 8 hours a day, and as soon as he goes home, he can do whatever he wants in his personal life, he or she, whatever, they might be more inclined to do those first 8 hours, not feeling like they have this tremendous obligation.
I don't know if it was Switzerland or something, where there's somewhere out that way where the kids have only 4 hours a day of school and no homework, and they're more productive. Like, they have better results.
I think that this might not be good economically, but I think that a 4-day week with a 3-day weekend would be a much better way for us to live.
That's another thing.
Even if you took that one day and moved it so that it was 2 days, 1 day, 2 days, 2 day, so that you were just constantly feeling like for me, I'm young and I'm new to this job right now, so Mondays aren't really that. It doesn't feel like I'm climbing a mountain. It's like a general hill. I definitely feel better when you get over Wednesday, but there are people that I work with who have been doing it for so long that I bet in their head it's a mountain to climb at Monday. Just like, you just get to that bottom and you're just climbing up.
We're going the other way, though. We're moving towards a 1-day weekend as a society, at least in Ontario.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There's large sections of the population, especially people that work in construction and a lot of contract type work. They work on Saturdays. A lot of them work on Saturdays. Sunday's really the only sacred day left.
Yeah.
It seems to
they
be
have more
weird.
time off sometimes in the winter, though. But
it's true. It's a seasonal thing. But one thing that we always forget about with school is that school is half teaching your kids and half daycare. That's part of the reason that's why they go to school for so long, is that if they went to school for less time, you'd be spending more money in the daycare that comes after school, right?
There's a few European countries that I think Italy or something, where they have like 6 weeks of vacation and they have shorter hours in the day, because they notice that after a certain hour, after 2 or something, people just are not as productive.
Yeah.
And so when they cram it, when they have a shorter day, they work harder, faster, and more productive in that time than they would in the full 8 hours. And they're happier and they have more free time and stuff like that.
That happens to me at work, because I get to set my own hours. So what'll happen is it'll be 3:30 on a Monday or whatever, and I don't really have it in me to do productive work. So I'll just go home and then I'll come in at 6 a.m. the next morning when I feel like fresh and ready to go and there's no one around me distracting me, and I'll just shred out all my work. So I'll get 6 hours of production done in the first 3 hours, right? And then the rest of the day I'm not as productive just because my body's not as into it.
I think it's time to start a movement.
It is.
With the power of the show, you guys could change the world.
We are changing the world.
Rise up against your...
That's it.
Oppress us.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of the podcast, and thank you for joining us in studio today. We really appreciate having a guest.
Well, we actually didn't. We introduced you as a bunch of different things. We didn't introduce you as the first fan. You are the first
I am the first
and
fan, aren't I?
consistent viewer.
Yes.
That first like that you get on the video, that's you. There's probably 700 likes on the channel
There we
just
go.
from one person.
That's-
So when we say there's no one watching, that's really not an accurate statement because it's always
Because
you.
you're always watching.
That's true.
Yeah, and we
I
appreciate
am.
that, and it's good. It's
I
really
enjoy
fun
every
to
minute.
have had you on here first because I think you're really important to the channel.
Thank you.
And if you guys are looking for an awesome
yeah.
music link, check the bottom of any description of any video to go to Lazarus Rising's channel.
Cool. Soon to be renamed.
Soon to be renamed, but it'll still be there. Thank you for joining us.